Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Behind the Curtain with Phoenix Theater Company. My name is Michael Barnard, Artistic Director at the Phoenix Theater Company, and I want to welcome you to this particular episode. I have a dear friend. He has become a dear friend during the last few years, and I've had the pleasure of getting to know him, Mr. Ken Davenport. Mr. Ken Davenport is a Broadway producer, among other things, but he won the Tony Award as producer of Once on This Island, the revival. He was the producer behind Getting the Band Back Together, The Play That Goes Wrong, Groundhog Day, which he had a Tony nomination for, the Deaf West production of Spring Awakening, another Tony nod, It's Only a Play, Macbeth with Alan Cummings, and Kinky Boots, just to name a few. Obviously a Tony Award-winning show, and also he was one of the lead producers of the national tours and international tours of Kinky Boots. He is also the creator of Theater Makers, which is a one-of-a-kind masterclass for directors, playwrights, producers. We'll get into that in a little bit. He's also the executive producer of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Really Useful group for North America. And he has a number of projects that are just waiting in the wings for when the Broadway theater or off-Broadway theater can reopen. And we'll talk about a little bit about that later. But first and foremost, with that very prestigious glimpse at his biography, I would like for you to meet Mr. Ken Davenport. Ken, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you. It's so good to see anyone in a theater, by the way. Just seeing that you're actually in the space is very comforting to me. So,
yes, I am sitting outside the Hormel Theater, one of our 3 venues here. So it's exciting. I just want to start off with an interesting question, maybe. What is a typical day for Ken Davenport? Like, what have you done today?
Oh, well, I don't know that there are typical days anymore, for sure.
That's true.
Look, the fun thing about being a producer and working in the theater is that even pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, no 2 days were ever the same. It's why I love doing what I do. Every day it's something different. It's just like our product, right? Theater itself, every performance is just a little bit different.
Sure.
And I think that's why people like me, people like you are attracted to it. There's just something fresh and a new challenge and a new project or new something. And I get to my office pre-pandemic, and I used to go like, I wonder what the phone will bring me today, or the email will bring me today. Like, yeah. What fun challenge, what new opportunity, what thing is going to be coming across my desk today that I never expected or imagined. And that's what makes it fun for me and makes it interesting. It's one of the reasons I stopped acting, actually, because I could never find a way to keep acting the same role for 8 times a week for 4 weeks to keep that fresh.
Right.
I have a little bit of entrepreneurial ADD. I need lots of things coming after me. So now, certainly, it's the same thing in this period, just with a little bit more of an intensity or dire straits about it. There's a lot of challenges we're facing every day when we wake up. And then there's just this looming when, like, when will things happen? When will things get back?
Right.
That's the problem, right? I always say that the challenge with anything in life is not knowing something, right?
Right.
Like when you aren't feeling well, to use the apropos comparison, you're not feeling well and you don't have a diagnosis. The moment you go to the doctor and the doctor says it's the flu or it's this, you feel better.
Right.
There it is. I know what it is. I know approximately when it'll be done. I know what to do to get out of it. Rest, chicken soup, whatever it is, right? Broken leg, whatever, you just know the drill. So the problem with this, the hardest part, I think, for all of humanity, to be honest, is that there are just so many unknowns. And the biggest one is when will Broadway get back? When will we get back? When will we get back to normal? So those looming questions make it hard every day to keep pushing ahead. But that's what we all have to do, is kind of keep our head down, know that we will get through the other side of it, and keep whatever momentum we can get going.
Right. Well, speaking of this pandemic and COVID, and since you have you sort of have the pulse of what's going on around, and you're part of instigating some of those innovative things. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that are happening during this COVID period in theater that might be interesting for our audience to know.
Well, I actually think we're witnessing the birth of an entirely new art form, if you will, an entirely new distribution platform for entertainment. So it's no coincidence, if you look back historically, it's no coincidence that out of the last major epidemic this country faced that was similar to that was the flu epidemic, right, of 1918, like 100 years ago, right?
Right.
Like that would shut down so many businesses, affected mass populations, et cetera. It's no coincidence that after that, Hollywood was born. Like out of the ashes of that, a new form of entertainment and consuming entertainment was born. And I think we're witnessing something similar. So I streamed my first show. I was the first Broadway or off-Broadway producer to stream a show live from New York in 2015, my production of Daddy Longlegs, which if you haven't done it at your theater, by the way, you should do. It's a great little show for your small theater. So we streamed it live. 155,000 people from 135 countries around the world tuned in to 4 showings of that. So instantly I knew that the streaming theater thing was going to be a thing. I knew it then. And we have seen this idea get accelerated because of the pandemic. And now so many things are being pushed to streaming, whether it's Diana making a deal with Netflix to shoot it, and that will be streamed before even Broadway gets its doors back open. I started live streaming interview shows every Tuesday night since the beginning of this. There's streaming performers that would normally tour the country, everything from Hershey Felder to a group that I'm producing called the Doo-Wop Project that plays around a lot. I'm streaming a show from a theater here in New York live all over the web on October 25th. Like, this is becoming a thing. And what's interesting is that it's not going to replace the theater. A lot of people get worried. It's going to be a supplemental form of marketing and also a supplemental business model for the theater. It's its own classification, right? It's online theater. And it's very fun to watch all of our theater makers and artists figure out what to do in this space. They're exploring and experimenting with all sorts of different things. So that's the big thing. And I'm experimenting along with it. And I urge everyone watching to experiment with me and with everyone else. Go buy a ticket. Go buy a ticket to any streaming event that you can. They're cheaper than going to the live theater. And see what you like and what you don't and what you want out of that experience. But there are some shows out there that I know are selling thousands of tickets for their event, many more that they could sell if they were actually doing an in-person live event.
So, speaking of that, and you said return to normal. We'll talk a little bit more about this streaming thing in a minute. But what do you see? Can you elaborate then, maybe from what you're already talking about? But what do you see as the new normal after this pandemic passes, or gets under control at least?
You know, there are a couple of phases here, and it's interesting to see what will work here in New York versus in Phoenix, right? So I am predicting, of course, that theater will be up and operational around the world, and certainly around this country, before it is operational in New York City. New York City presents a lot of challenges that the Phoenix theater doesn't have experienced the same type of challenges. So everyone's talking about like social distancing our audience. Like, oh, you seat them, just seat them 6 feet apart, like just put empty seats, it'll be fine. Okay, have you ever been to a Broadway theater and seen the line for the bathroom at an intermission? Like, how do you social distance that? Wraps around stairwells, goes up, like there are a lot of things that make it very challenging to do that. And also, by the way, I just think socially distanced theater doesn't really work as well here. It doesn't provide the experience that I think audiences really want from going to the theater. It doesn't sell tickets, actually, because we want word of mouth, and word of mouth is at its high point when it's a full audience. So theater will start to pop up around the country before even in New York. And I believe, as it has, theater is up and running in Seoul. There's stuff going on in China and Japan, and that will slowly creep this way. I will also tell you that one of the reasons I think it's popping up in those countries first, because a lot of people, I'll even give us, like we've mismanaged a lot of this thing in this country, but I will say that one of the reasons it's popping up in other countries around the world, especially the Far East, is remember, they've been through this before. They've been through this. Someone in Korea that I was talking to, and I was expressing concern about, you got shows running again? How are you doing this? They're like, this is the 4th virus we've dealt with in the last 3 decades. You're bad at it because you've never done it before. We know how to do it, and our people know how to do it. Our people know how to get these things under control, which is why you're seeing other countries adopt to it faster. So we can cut ourselves a little bit of a break there. But we'll see it start to come back. So you'll see social distancing shows, you'll see shows with masks, you'll see a lot of that even before it gets to New York. New York, I don't believe, will really be back in the way that we want it back until there is a vaccine that a very large percent of the population has. I still think you'll see masks for a while, or at least a good chunk of the folks in the audience is wearing masks. We will, though, the cleanliness, even if everyone in the country gets a vaccine, everybody, you will still see a heightened measure of cleanliness and hygiene and sanitizer and all those things.
Right.
Which is good because the world will be going through post-traumatic stress disorder even after this is passed.
Oh, yes.
And we'll want, even if the virus is gone, we'll still be grabbing for our hand sanitizer every few moments, even when, by the way, I just did it, when you don't go outside and haven't touched anything.
Right. Just for that feeling of safety. Yeah.
That's right.
That extra. So those will be some of the new normals: hand sanitizers and additional cleaning, perhaps mask wearing still.
The question about, will it affect the type of shows that are created? Mm-hmm. Will shows be shorter because people will feel more comfortable if they're not in a closed space for a long period of time? And I always look at I always look at the airline industry for just about everything. Mm-hmm. So they were the first people to have premium seating with first class. They were the first companies to have variable pricing where price fluctuates based on time of year.
Right.
And, look, listen, everyone watching this should just think, if you had to get on a flight tomorrow, would you be more comfortable on a flight that was 6 hours or on a flight that was 3 hours? You'd say 3. So will that translate to the theater? If you had an option to go to a show that was 3 hours versus 90 minutes with no intermission, so you didn't have to use the restroom there.
Right.
Which one would make you feel more comfortable? So that's where it gets a little interesting, and whether we'll see art and how it's created shift as a result.
Right. Well, one of the things that we're doing here at the Phoenix Theater Company is we are looking forward to opening an outdoor theater. There's definitely seems to be, from our surveys of our audience, a stronger sense of comfortability attending an outdoor experience. Of course, that will all be social distanced. We're setting up 2 pairs of 2 chairs, and they will have cup holders and etc. You'll be able to order right from your phone any prepackaged food or a drink or what have you. It'll be brought to you, so you don't have to, stand in lines, etc., etc. We're probably doing a concert series. We're going to be doing a lovely tribute to Dionne Warwick from this fabulous group called the Nicole Pesci, and we 3 plus her big band. We're going to be doing a Christmas celebration. We'll be bringing in a couple of people that have their own shows out of either Vegas or Chicago. And then we're going to be doing Murder for Two, and we'll be doing the Johnny Cash Ring of Fire and My Way. But those are the kinds of shows that we can do on an outdoor stage during this COVID experience. But we're definitely hoping for that need from the individuals that have been trapped at home to be able to come and have an experience of live entertainment during this time. And of course, our weather out here is at its best during when it's kind of at its worst where you are. So we're excited to explore that, and I know that is one new thing. And who knows, will outdoor theater become a more permanent venture in areas of the country that where it's climate friendly to be able to do something like that. So I thought that's one thing that I could see possibly changing or adding to the flux of things. here. Tell me a little bit more about, so you were saying that virtual or streaming is not going to replace live theater. And of course, I mean, how can it? Because the point of live theater is that it is live, and that's what makes that particular medium, or our particular medium that we are dealing in, work. It's what it is. And we've heard from subscribers, well, I'll wait till I feel safe because I want to see it live. But tell me a little bit, and there's also the flip side. I can no longer go attend the theater. I can't drive at night, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe streaming would be good. How does a theater compete with, like Netflix and Peacock and and things like that, where they can offer things free, basically? You're just paying a monthly charge, etc. How in your opinion can we make this work? And I think you alluded to the fact that you find it to be more of a, and correct me if I'm wrong, a marketing or audience development strategy. Talk to me a little bit more about all of this.
Well, yeah, I think, look, what we're discovering right now is that individual streamed events can be monetized, that there are ways to sell them, and that people will pay for them. We found this out in 2015 when I streamed Daddy Longlegs, that we surveyed everybody and they said, I would be happy to, we gave it away for free. I'd be happy to pay for this, between 15 and 25 bucks, somewhere around there. And that's what actually the going rate is now.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to monetize it again, by the way, and sold Daddy Longlegs to a company called Broadway-ready, which now anyone out there can go watch it on Broadway-ready. So there's a way to monetize it. But yeah, what we also learned with Daddy Longlegs is that when people watched it, they wanted to see it live after the fact.
Oh,
they
interesting.
wanted to. They told us that, and I saw it show up in the box office. And I always equate it to this. So when I grew up in a small town in Massachusetts, and I was a baseball fan and a baseball player in my little league, I remember watching the Red Sox on television. And sorry if there are any Yankees fans out there. I remember watching the Red Sox and looking at the big green monster and watching them and thinking like, I can't wait to go and be in that stands and experience it live, right? It's like listening to music and a CD and your favorite artist comes to your local town. You want to experience it live. So it actually markets what you're doing. It pushes what you're doing. The cool thing is we're finding a way to monetize it like anything else. The key is for anyone out there doing this, including regional theaters like your own or individual artists, is making it unique, is not making it just like a television show. Like you say, how do we compete with Peacock or Netflix? You don't, right. Because you'll lose every time.
Exactly.
What can you do to make your experience different? And remember, the live factor is part of that. Like a lot of people are taping events like theater events and then putting them out there, which is fine. But it's not what I believe is the best way to stand out in this market. Theater is live. We need to present these events as live as possible, right? Because that's what people like to go, why they like to go to the theater, whether they know it or not. It's the NASCAR of live entertainment. Like something could go wrong. It's live. It's happening right there. So I believe when people are doing events, they do it live. Netflix doesn't go live. Peacock doesn't go live, right? Mm-hmm. So try to do something live and then try to make it unique. I'm experimenting with how do we involve the audience, whether it's chat, whether it's offline stuff, sending people things to experience, giving them drink menus. You talk about cup holders and you're outside. Well, send people what they should be eating and drinking. It's in a strange way, it's like going to a restaurant. You'll enjoy this steak if you have this white wine. No, that's wrong. Red wine. I don't drink, so there you go. I just outed myself. You'll enjoy the show if you're popping popcorn or whatever. Like, try to involve all the senses. Be unique. Again, remember, I believe this is its totally unique art form. We shouldn't try to create just theater experiences online. We should try to create online or virtual theater experiences.
I see. Yeah, sure. Very. Do you see any innovation in possibly showing the audience the live experience from a different point of view, i.e., from backstage,
Yeah.
or from the stage manager's booth, or something
I love it.
like that?
All that stuff is great and coming, and throwing cameras around, you letting people have an option of which camera they want to watch at which time, or watch
Yeah,
the replay and watch it from a different angle. Like, all that stuff is coming. Again, it becomes its own thing. It
yeah,
won't replace, it won't, like, because the most people will be like, that's not how I want to view theater.
right.
Well, that's fine, but it won't replace it. It'll just supplement. It'll be different, unique, but all that stuff. The cool thing is, it's an entirely new platform. It's the Wild West. We can and should do whatever we can come up with right now, just to see what sticks and what audiences are enjoying. The good news is they are consuming this entertainment. They are paying for this entertainment.
Right.
We just need to keep innovating the entertainment.
Now, that brings up the subject of the artists themselves and the union. Now, the union has been fairly adamant about either not providing contracts, or now I think they're have brought out an entire protocol of what needs to take place in order for a theater to receive a contract on that. Um, this is something that probably our audience is not entirely aware of, um, or aware of at all. Can you speak to where the union is with uh, bringing artists back?
I wish I could speak with any real clarification on this issue. The problem is we're getting none here either. Um, and it's very easy to jump up and down and say, unions, how could you not be more forthcoming and be pushing artists to get back somehow, or coming up with some mechanism that allows it. The first thing, again, we got to cut the unions a little slack, and that they don't have many people working there right now.
Right.
They've had massive layoffs and furloughs as well, because they have no income coming in. There's a very few people trying to figure it all out. And I also believe, like everyone else, they don't know what's happening, right? No one knows what's happening. The challenge with unions is that they're always coming at things from a defensive position, because they never want to make a deal that a year later their membership says, why did you ever make that deal? So they always have to think about the best and the worst case scenarios. And so they either have to charge a heck of a lot of money, right? Because they don't want to, if it's an unknown thing, and streaming theater is an unknown thing, all this is unknown, COVID's an unknown. If it's unknown, they have to go to the extremes, because let's just say it's like, we don't know how much a producer is going to make. Okay, we'll just give them a decent rate. We'll give them the same rate. But if there's unlimited upside for me, if all of a sudden I produce a streaming event, I paid everyone $500 and I make $5 million, the union's in big trouble, because their membership is going to freak out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Freak out. And the opposite is true as well, is that what if someone gets sick? And what if someone gets sick and unfortunately dies? The membership would freak out, justifiably so. How could you let this happen? Blah, 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 blah. So they have to look at this from an extreme perspective. And they speak collectively. That's the problem right now. And I think one of the problems that unions will have going forward is that speaking for a collective that has such a varying degrees of people and their desire to work, their need to work, their willingness to work, where they want to work, how they want to work, what they'll take, to have blanket statements right now is a very hard thing. I wrote a blog about this thing. Any company or business that says the words, I can't, or we don't do it that way, we can't do it that way, anyone that says this during this time is in big trouble going forward. There needs to be flexibility. And right now, I'm just not seeing a lot of flexibility. Again, partly because they just can't be flexible. Either they don't have the staff to figure it out, or they're worried about what happens if they do.
Right, right.
I've
I
seen some
know.
people go to other unions. Actors Equity, I think, has been stalled on a lot of issues, and I know some major employers that have said like, "Oh, we're just going to go to SAG. We're going to try other things," and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I know that just in this concert series that we're, producing, we're doing a number of protocols, keeping artists in pods where they only associate with a small group of people, that they agree to self-quarantine themselves, temperature checks, um, uh, testing, COVID testing once a week, wearing masks, social distancing, even having a COVID enforcer on the property, and being able to rehearse in an area where we can open up doors like a loading dock door in order to rehearse in an area that has much more free flow, air, doing everything that we can to make it as absolutely as safe as possible, and asking the artists to agree and say, are you willing to do this, etc. These are the protocols, and for the most part, we're finding that artists are desperate to want to work, and they know that, well, they go to the grocery store, they go to the,
Right.
they're going out to other essentials, to the dentist, to
They're
to the
getting on
doctor's office,
planes.
getting on
Like,
planes.
that's the big
So
one. I mean, a
so
lot of
there are
people.
protocols, yeah, there are protocols in place in other industries that seem to be working, and as long as you are forthcoming in addressing and agreeing to follow those protocols.
Yeah, we have a concert on October 25th. It's in a Manhattan theater, New York City theater. We're putting 5 guys band like in a room. We're shooting it. They will be singing and dancing and the whole bit. And we have all those protocols in place.
Yeah,
It's just a concert, so technically it's non-union. The planes thing is a big question. Like everyone was concerned about travel, justifiably so. I haven't gotten on a plane. Like I keep saying, why stress the system? But planes are packed. I know many people that are traveled, they're packed. People are wearing masks, there are requirements. I have not read that any plane trip has been a super spreader event,
right.
right? No one is talking about that. They would not allow it. They're shutting down all sorts of other things. They're not shutting down air transportation. Now, partly that's because it's a necessity. But that should prove that people in a small, cramped space, very close together with the right protocols, are safe, right? So we should be able to put 10 people in a room socially distanced to do a reading, right?
Right.
But we
Right.
can't yet. So this is the challenge, I think, that we're facing right now. There's a lot of frustration, and I think a lot of artists are going to start demanding. We are 2 months, right? 2 months, almost 2.5 months past the July $600 supplemental unemployment insurance
Correct.
disappearing.
Right.
As of today, there's no stimulus package, and who knows when they'll even start talking about that again. So people are going to start feeling it, and they're going to want to start getting back to work in some shape or fashion. Either I
Right.
think they'll force unions' hands to figure this out, or they'll start to jump ship and just do more work off the union books.
Right. Right. So you alluded to this earlier in our discussion about thinking that Broadway would be the last to return. What do you think it's going? Well, you said a vaccine, I guess, but when do you think Broadway will return, and what will it look like? Will it look the same, other than what you were referring to as far as additional cleaning?
I think we may see some stuff in the first 2 quarters, like second quarter of 21. But I don't think we'll be back until next fall. I think two things happened, and now a couple others since then, but two major things happened in the last month that said it's going to be next fall to me. Number one, Fauci. Dr. Fauci went on Jennifer Garner's Instagram, of all places. I mean, I actually respect him a lot, but I did want to punch him in the face for where he delivered that information. But he said people would not feel comfortable about going to theaters again until a year after a vaccine. Now, he backtracked and said, oh, I meant normal, no masks, no social distancing. Like, there are ways to get back into theaters before that. But that was a first domino, which said to a lot of people a year after a vaccine, well, we're expecting a vaccine to be announced in the next 4 to 8 weeks, depends on who you listen to. Some people are saying maybe, the next day. But we're going to, I do believe we'll see a vaccine announced as effective by the end of the year. Whether how far it's distributed by then, who knows? But I believe there'll be one deemed effective. Then it'll take a year. So that puts us at next fall. The second thing that happened was the Metropolitan Opera came out and said, we're not doing anything until September of 2021. When big institutions come out and say things like that, there is a herd mentality, right? That we just start to drift towards, oh, that's okay. And when it's someone respected like Fauci who said that, and then institutions start to say it, others just start to line up. And more importantly, the public starts to line up, because we have two problems. Number one, when will it be safe to come back? Number two, when will the audience come back, even if it's safe? Mm-hmm. And Broadway especially, the economics are so fragile that we can't afford to come back unless our audience is ready to come back. Mm-hmm. So I think you'll see us wait just a little bit longer. I'm about to do a video series on this very subject. So anyone out there that's interested, if you just go to my blog, just Google me, I'm about to launch a 3-part video series on exactly this question, like when will Broadway come back?
Right.
Like?
Well, that's why we're excited about this outdoor experience, because this could be, for us in our area, the path to. It seems like our audiences are excited about trying something, outdoors.
Yeah, I love it for you. I'm going to make a prediction for you right now, and I urge you to try to figure out how you do this. This will be one of the blessings for you and your theater 5 years from now. I would make these plans for this outdoor theater in the same way that I'm streaming stuff and that you're doing. Like, the outdoor theater should never disappear.
Yeah.
It should never disappear. You're going to put all this work and research and development into, like, what types of shows work best? How do we do it? You will have another place to do a show. Maybe you'll only do one a year at that point, or 2 a year. It'll be Phoenix Theater Under the Stars, like twice a year, fall, spring. You'll actually be able to increase the number of shows that you're doing at the theater. You'll increase a unique offering. People will want to go to that because it'll be so different and special. And I predict in 5 years, this becomes added revenue to your bottom line that you didn't have before all this started.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears, that's for sure. Great.
It's going to hurt for a little while getting there, but it'll get there.
Well, yeah, I'm excited. I think our audiences are going to come and have just a unique time experiencing something under the stars. So it should be hopefully a lot of fun for them. Tell me a little bit about. Now, you have been helping us with Americano, the musical that our patrons all got to see in January. And, of course, we were hoping to do, a professional reading in New York, and et cetera, and this whole COVID thing came into play. But the subject matter still remains relevant. And so where do you see something like an Americano fitting into this world moving forward?
Well, the very exciting thing about moving forward is that there's going to actually be a lot more opportunities for shows like Americano to get attention. Because there had been this backlog, Our Broadway was booming. It was very popular to produce theater, to get shows in Broadway theaters. And that's going to be challenging for a lot of people. And a lot of people are going to just be scared to do it. They're going to run, right? Because producing theater for many people is not a necessity.
Right.
It's a hobby, something they do on the side of what their main job is, right? So not for me, of course, it's my primary profession. But a lot of those people are going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Why should I do this anymore? It's too risky. It's too risky. I always think about Warren Buffett. Like he always said, buy when people are fearful, right? And when people are greedy,
right?
Run. Well, people were greedy before this started. And after this, people are going to be fearful. And I believe that means there's going to be some empty theaters, reduced competition in the market, so that shows will be able to get a bigger and better and brighter spotlight as a result. For those folks that are passionate, that have supporters, that are able to put their head down and go like, we're just getting through this and we'll be on the other side. And a lot of people are going to fall away. Imagine running through a snowstorm. Like that's what's happening. And a lot of people are going to be like, why am I doing this? It's too hard. I'm just going to stop and go inside and have some hot chocolate. And I'm going to finish this race. I'm going to finish this race.
Right.
And those are the people. And I believe your show is good enough. And I believe it has you and so many other passionate people behind it. That it will be one of those shows that gets through this snowstorm.
Well, that would be a breath of fresh air, for sure. Thank you for that. And thanks for your, I know that you are working with Jason Rose, our producer, and you are helping us trying to move it forward. And we're very, very excited and thankful and grateful to you for all of your input when it comes to that. Tell us, our audience, a little bit about theater makers and what you're doing with that.
So I have always been passionate about trying to help put more theater in the world. I mean, it's very simple. I believe the world is a better place if there's more theater in it. There's only more theater in it if there are more people making it, right?
True.
We need farmers if we want to eat. We have to support them. And when I was coming up as a theater maker, I couldn't find any information on how to do it. To produce theater, write theater, like I just couldn't find any information. So I vowed at that moment that if I ever achieved any success, or when I achieved success, that I would make this information, all the things I learned, available to people so they could find it and get them to their goals of making theater faster than they could on their own. So I started blogging over 10 years ago for this purpose. I started a podcast, a live stream. I've written some books. I've done a whole bunch of stuff about raising the curtain on Broadway, behind the curtain, seeing what's behind the curtain, that it's a business like any other business. And here are the strings you have to pull, the things you have to do in order to get your show up. Whether that's how to structure a play or a musical, or how to raise money, or how to market it, or deal with all that stuff. So I started a website called The Theater Makers Studio, theatermakersstudio.com, and it's just filled with resources, master classes from top A-list industry professionals talking about directing, talking about producing and marketing, and all those things. And it's also just created a community of people for anyone with an idea that they've ever wanted to get on a stage. And we've had an incredible success rate of people getting produced as a result, getting their ideas out of their head onto a page and then onto a stage. It's been a mission of mine to help these people, and it's been a joy to do it. So anyone out there with an idea or a script that they've had sitting on a shelf, please check us out, and we're happy to help. We throw a huge conference every year, the Theater Makers Summit, and this year has more A-list speakers than ever before, because frankly, no one has anything else to do. So they're willing to sign up and speak. Everyone from Alan Menken to Tom Schumacher, the head of Disney, Looks like Ben Brantley, the former critic for the New York Times, is going to, like, all Chris Jackson from Hamilton is going to keynote. And the cool thing is virtual this year, so anyone from anywhere in the world can tune in. And the theme is making theater in the new world. It's all the stuff that we're talking about, because that's the question on everyone's mind: is how do we make it, and what's that going to mean for our artists and our audience?
And that's in November, right?
November 14th, 15th, and the special extra day on the 16th.
Just
theatermakersummit.com. If you're interested in the theater and what it's going to become, check it out. The conversations are going to be educational and inspiring as well.
I've already signed up for it. So
you'll love it. It's great because you're going to learn a lot, but also I've curated the speakers very carefully. They're going to provide a lot of hope and inspiration, and get you making more theater for sure, or seeing it.
I have one last question for you, and that is, tell us, our audience, a little bit about like one or two of your favorite projects that you're working on right now for the future to Broadway. Is it Joy? Is it
I've got I've got 6 or 7 projects I'm working on. I'm very quickly go through the list. A few that I'm working on that I'm super excited about is I have the Neil Diamond music, the life and music of Neil Diamond.
Right.
I mean, who doesn't love Neil Diamond? I just have to say the word Sweet Caroline, and everyone watching this will be singing it for the next 3 days. So that's one. Joy is something I'm very, very excited about. If you saw the movie that starred Jennifer Lawrence about the Long Island QVC queen, inventor of the Miracle Mop, single mother of 2, real rags to riches story about a woman who achieves major success through business. That's the story just everyone really is fascinated with and just loves. And the woman, the actual woman, Joy, she's an incredible, incredible woman. I love stories like Joy. An underdog achieves massive success, or as I like to say, an Americano is like this. I think great musicals are stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. That's what Americano is, and that's certainly what Joy is. So Joy is one I'm excited about. Broadway-Vacation is the other one, which is, if you know the National Lampoon Vacation franchise, Broadway-Vacation is the next chapter. They've been to Wally World, they've been to Europe, they've been to Vegas, they're coming to Broadway. And I'm very excited about getting this one to New York because it's a love letter to Broadway, and it's a love letter to New York City. So
that's great.
You can't help but when you hear some of the jokes and see the images in these songs about want to be here, it's a real celebration. So that'll be a great one to get back up here when the lights go back on Broadway.
Well, that's great. Well, Ken, I want to thank you so much for your inspirational words, and knock on wood, our outdoor theater will explode like you're predicting, and just all your interesting insight as to where theater is now and where theater is going, and what we can benefit. I know that our patrons out there, I'm sure, got a great inside look at some of the challenges and some of the innovations of what this pandemic has shown us. So, ladies and gentlemen, from our theater to your homes, we wish you a blessed evening, a safe and healthy one, and we look forward to seeing you at our outdoor theater, and then hopefully back in our theater later on. And to Ken, great success with your projects going forward. I'll be anxious to tune in at Theater Makers Summit Conference, and I wish you much, much success. Thank you all for being with us tonight. Good night.